Swivl Sessions, interviews with field service entrepreneurs. Get insights and strategies from those who took the leap and risked it all to start their own home service companies.
Hey, we had a great session yesterday with Galbreath from At Your Service Junk Removal out of Birmingham. Tyson, what did you think about that conversation?
Jeremy, I was so impressed with all that Cameron has accomplished as a 24-year-old student. He has vision to create a company, but also focus on school. The kid has got a lot on the ball. I was very impressed with At Your Service and what he and his partners have put together.
I can't agree with you more. I was impressed with his youth and the fact that they're expanded. They're not just junk removal. They're doing landscaping and home services and other such things. That's Galbreath coming up with At Your Service out of Birmingham. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Swivl Sessions, where we dive into the world of field service entrepreneurship. Now, before we get into today's interview, let's introduce the host you'll be hearing from. Let's give a warm welcome to John Tyson, the man who keeps the sticky note industry thriving. While some embrace digital gadgets, Tyson prefers good old pen and paper, lots of it, resulting in a desk that's a masterpiece of organized chaos. Amidst the flurry of notebooks and scribbles lies a mind that's always capturing brilliant ideas. Here's to Tyson, the sultan of scribbles and our favorite note-taking ninja.
That was awesome. Thank you, Rob. And to my wherever gives me great pleasure introducing someone who's a sales legend. He can close a deal in his sleep, but don't let him fool you while he's out there making big moves and closing deals. He's also spending his entire weekend digging through estate sales like a raccoon on a trash hunt. He could sell water to a drowning man and probably owns way too many antique clocks. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy Egger.
I do not. Come on. Well, maybe like 3. Hey, Cameron, I'd like you to meet Rob. He's our operations expert and the reigning champion of EV obsession. If there's a new electric vehicle on the market, you can bet Rob has already named it, taken it on a date, and might even be planning a long romantic weekend getaway. Just don't ask him about the mileage. And when he's not busy optimizing operation, you'll find him dreaming up wild scenarios where he and his future electric sweetheart drive off into the sunset silently and without a hint of tailpipe emissions, if you know what I mean. Rob, take it away.
That was weird.
Very nice.
Okay. So, all right, let's get started with today's episode of Swivl Sessions. Today, we are excited to welcome a special guest from Birmingham, Alabama. Please join us in welcoming Cameron Galbreath, founder and driving force between At Your Service One-Stop Home Services. Cameron boldly stepped into the world of entrepreneurship by founding his own one-stop home services company. We're excited to hear about what inspired him to launch his venture, the challenges he's navigated, and the insights he's gained throughout his journey. So, Cameron, welcome to Swivl Sessions. It's great to have you here. How are things going in your world?
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Things are going pretty well. Right now is a little bit of a slow season in October and November, but we're still working almost every day right now. Things are doing pretty good.
Good. So tell me, I want to get back to, if you can tell me about your background before you got started. What were you doing before you even thought about starting up on your own?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I am a recent graduate of the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So roll tide.
Roll tide.
Before I got started in our company At Your Service, I was a full-time student, and I also did like acting and some modeling up and around like the New York and Atlanta areas.
Renaissance man.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. But I was doing like commercials and that sort of thing, and very small.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
Can we find one of these commercials if we search hard enough?
Probably so.
All right.
All right. Know what I'm doing later.
The after show conversation.
So a little acting. What else?
Yeah, I graduated in creative media and communications at Alabama. So I have a background in doing like basically production for commercials or movie shoots as well. So I've worked on a few sets as you know, a like a set hand or something like that. When I was in the acting world and everything, I knew I couldn't always maybe do that, but I still wanted to have a part in production. So I studied, that's what I went to school for.
All right. So I'm having a hard time making the connection now. Usually when we talk to guys like you, it's a smooth transition into your entrepreneurial side.
Yeah.
What made you take the leap and do this?
So this was actually something completely different than anything that I've ever done. I actually did not have a lot of experience like working with my hands and, doing a lot of manual labor. How I got involved with this is it was COVID and everybody was home. I wasn't on campus. We all got sent home and everything. And while I was home, I have a friend named Brantley Ledbetter who I started the company with, and he's still a co-owner in the business. And we both live in the same neighborhood, and what Brantley was doing was delivering Christmas trees to people in the neighborhood. And as he was doing that, people would ask him, hey, can you haul this couch away for me? Or can you move this desk upstairs while you're here, do this or that? And so he was kind of marketing himself, like past doing Christmas tree deliveries, like, I'm available to do landscaping or moving, whatever else. And he got kind of busy. He called me and asked if I want to work with him. And I had a background actually in doing social media for some companies, running social media accounts. Huh. And that kind of gave us a little bit of an advantage over our competition in the area because I knew how to put posts together, really basic stuff. And a lot of our competitors here really just don't know how to use social media at all because it's an older crowd or whatnot. So early on, we actually looked a lot more professional than we were just with our posts that we were putting out on the internet, and we knew where to reach people on Facebook and whatnot. So it just started out really basic. Me and Brantley riding around in his 2001 Toyota Tacoma, doing jobs around the neighborhood.
It's a good ride.
God bless him.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. You got to start somewhere. That's a good place to start. How long ago was that when you made that jump and started riding around in the Tacoma?
I started working with Brantley in February of 2021. He was delivering Christmas trees in December of 2020. So a few months before I started working with him. And then, we started growing the business and posting on Facebook, and we ended up just getting so many job requests every day. We couldn't handle everything ourselves. And we're calling and reaching out to our friends like, hey, do you want to work? Can you do this? Can you do that? And what we kind of realized was some of our guys were good at doing landscaping, but they were terrible movers, or they were really good movers, but they couldn't do landscaping. So we kind of made crews like, all right, you're going to do all the landscaping jobs. You're going to do all the moving. And then, we divided them up. And so what that eventually turned into was just having 3 different companies that could, do everything. Well, three crews under one company that could do everything.
Multi-service home services company.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
It's fantastic. So your services include moving.
Yes, sir.
Landscaping, handyman work.
Yeah. Handyman's kind of interesting. It started off with me and Brantley. Brantley's like a more hands-on grizzly type of guy. He's in the Army right now. He's in Korea actually on deployment. So that's why he's here today. But Brantley had a little bit of experience. His family owned like a some sort of like iron producing business. So he kind of grew up like doing stuff with his hands, and he knew a little bit of home repair and whatnot. So we could do minor things in people's houses, but we ended up making partnerships with people that we knew where we're doing like full renovations in people's bathrooms and kitchens and stuff.
Wow. So you were subcontracting that out to plumbing companies, I take it? Or...
Yeah, essentially.
So what was the plan since you guys were in school? I know COVID was going on. Once you were back in, how were you planning on continuing the business?
Yeah, it was
getting this going.
it was really difficult because Brantley, he was actually going to school in Vermont, and I was in Tuscaloosa, which is only about an hour away from Birmingham. So we had about, I guess, close to a full year of us working together every day and going on jobs. But then when the next school year started, he went up to Vermont and I was in Tuscaloosa. So we had to kind of rely on our guys here in Birmingham to keep things going and operations, running smoothly. So I was running everything from like, my lecture halls and stuff and in class with my computer open, my job stuff, taking phone
That's
calls.
awesome.
So it was really difficult at first, but somehow we navigated through that until we could get to the point where I was graduated and able to be here full time.
You're one of the younger people that we've talked to, and so this might lead into, I always like to ask guys like you about the risk that you perceived before you started your business. But maybe, someone your age, they don't see it as any risk. Or
Yeah.
do you? Did you have an expectation of risk when you started this thing?
Honestly, there's actually a lot more risk involved in it than I ever realized, like especially when we first started. I mean, we probably didn't even have insurance for the first like 2 full years, and it was like really that never crossed our mind, especially in the first year. We're just going into people's houses and doing jobs, and we were lucky enough to not have any major problems. Something might happen here or there, but it'd be really small and almost, we can just give them $100 off the job or whatever it is, and that'd fix most of the problems we had. But yeah, we never really saw any risks in it. So I think knowing what I know now, if I knew what I know now when we started, I don't know if I would have done it. That makes
At
sense.
all?
I mean, if you told me
You're
everything
stated acting.
if you would have told me everything that I was gonna have to do to get even where we are now when we were started,
Yeah.
I don't think that I would have done it. But
That's one pattern that we see often is a underestimation of the workload after you get started. A lot of guys think that they're going to, hey, I'm going to work for myself. Therefore, I'm going to be fishing on Fridays. But that's not really the case, as you now know. If you want a successful business and it looks like your business is fairly successful, especially from starting from where you did. What kind of operational issues did you? So now we're talking about your immediate launch time frame, and what kind of other operational issues? I know besides not having insurance, maybe it's I don't know what else, employees, hiring. What kind of issues did you encounter, and then how did you fix those?
Yeah, definitely finding people that wanted to work. With us being so young, when we started, me and Brantley were both 21. And when we started, it was really hard. All the people we hired were our friends, we're not going to be able to find any like 30, 40-year-olds that are going to be interested in coming in to work for a couple of like 20-year-old college students. Understandably so. So it was hard finding like skilled people or people that were really good at, these different things. So really it was just kind of getting lucky, having friends that had, a few years of experience, maybe working at a landscaping company or working for a moving company, whatever it was. One of the biggest things that we had a problem with was like really having a place to schedule our jobs and stuff like that. We were running things through a Google spreadsheet that I had put together. I took like a spreadsheet class at Alabama, and so I put together this like spreadsheet from something I learned in class, and that's how we kept up with everything. And it was really difficult manually putting every single thing in, keeping up with hours and whatnot. And the crazy thing is, thinking back to it, is like when we first started, we just paid everybody. It was essentially a commission. Like if you go on this job and let's say it's $100 job, we're going to pay you 60%. I think back then maybe they got like 80% and we took 20 or something like that. So like people were crazy amount of, we weren't even like profiting anything. It was just like extra money in me and Brantley's pockets, really. And it's changed a lot since then, of course, but yeah, that's how we started things off.
How do you
Cam,
structure
for-
it now? Sorry. How do you
Go ahead, Rob.
structure your compensation for your employees now? If it's no longer commission?
Yeah, so we just do an hourly rate. Everyone, like, they'll start off at $20 an hour if they don't have like a lot of experience. And then if they stay with us for a few weeks or a month, really, then we'll move them up to 25. And then some of our managers are getting like 30 to 35 an hour.
So follow-up question.
Yeah.
Did you find that when you changed from commission to hourly, did you find that the work pace slowed down significantly?
You know, it's actually really interesting. People were more motivated to work and get things done faster when they were making commission. But I think the quality, and maybe it's just because our managers or the people in charge have more experience, but I feel like we do a lot better job quality wise on our hourly system now. I don't know why that is, but I just feel like people work better that way.
And quality is one of two of the three pillars that keep your customers calling you back again, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. My last question in this series is
We'll be back here if you need us.
My last question in this series of questions is about your customer retention rate then. So you're focused on quality. Are you focused on speed or price? Those are kind of the three things. They say you can have two of three.
Yeah.
And is that what brings your customers back to you for your repeat business?
Really, the vision that me and Brantley have always had is we want to like give out a quality product. We honestly just want to give out the best product possible. It's kind of a weird comparison because it's not in the same field, but the brands and companies that we kind of like want to be compared to are places like a Publix or a Chick-fil-A, where when you go there, you kind of expect a higher quality at Chick-fil-A than maybe when you go to McDonald's, or a higher quality of shopping at Publix versus Walmart, you know? So that's kind of how we want to run our operations as well.
Yeah, that's good. Incredibly inexpensive way to brand yourself as a high-end brand by saying, like in Chick-fil-A, it's a fast food chain and it's going to kill you just as fast as McDonald's will. But they preface it by saying, it's my pleasure, right? And it makes you feel like you're at the Ritz-Carlton, but you're eating fried chicken. It's incredible. And it tastes that much better because of it too. And I don't feel guilty about eating Chick-fil-A for some reason. So that's a great branding marketing strategy. And I'm sure it's going well for you.
Yeah.
Cam, as an Army brat, make sure you pass along to Brantley how much we appreciate his service. And transitioning from student to business owner, I imagine that's a pretty steep learning curve. Was there a particular moment where you guys realized you were growing a lot quicker than you expected, or this was turning into an actual business? Was there that moment where you kind of were shocked to realize that?
Yeah, it was really weird being at home and starting the company and then going back to school and sitting in classes. That was really kind of difficult for me because, like, after, I guess, it definitely felt like being in the real world and running a company, and then going back to class and sitting down with like people my age and taking notes from the teacher. It just felt like it didn't matter as much as it did beforehand. Like I was, I know that it's
you had
important.
A glimpse.
Yeah, exactly. And that was really weird, and I kind of had to like refocus myself because it was just a little difficult for me going back to that setting. One thing I found out was the University of Alabama actually offers a program for student entrepreneurs. And me and Brantley were able to do a student entrepreneurship program at the University of Alabama over the summertime. And they had us with other student entrepreneurs, and it was a wide mix. Some of them just like made t-shirts and sold them online or did small things like that. There was a few, like one guy actually had opened up a barber shop, and I felt like dealing with real issues, kind of like what we were dealing with. But we learned a lot from that because we got to work with professors every single day and people in the community that were running businesses. And that was like an invaluable experience for us learning from those guys. And they gave us like a little bit of funding too for doing the program. So that was a really great experience for us.
Fantastic.
I bet. How do you and Brantley separate the tasks at hand, like the operations and the sales and those sorts of things between the two of you?
Yeah. So when Brantley's here and we're running things together, typically he's going to be more of like a field manager type of role, and I'm going to be more of like a business manager type of role. So Brantley, again, he's like the guy that really knows how to work with his hands better than I do. So he's going to be better suited for that role, going on jobs or fixing issues there, whereas I'm better kind of like doing marketing or finding a source to getting more jobs or kind of running things more efficiently. So when we're both here, that's kind of how we operate best.
I like that you guys are found your lanes and stay where you're comfortable, make it work.
Yeah, that's key.
You started out with spreadsheets. How are you running your business right now? How are you keeping up with your jobs? How are you, what software are you using currently to keep up with your jobs and keep track of things?
It's a software called ManageMart, and it's kind of like a Jobber or something like that. It's a lot less expensive. I think it's only like $300 for a year, and it's pretty basic, but it's everything that we need. We can post all of our jobs on there. It keeps up with our expenses and how much we're making, sends invoices through emails to customers. We can send estimates, do credit card transactions through it and everything. So that's what we currently use.
They say it's dangerous to have worked with friends. Has that been a benefit to you, or are there times when you guys have to say, "Hey, listen, let's remember we are friends as well as business partners"?
No, the only issue we really had with that has been people working for us. I think me and Brantley haven't really had that issue as like business partners, to be honest, because we're both pretty alike in our personalities in a lot of ways, where there's not really a lot of ego involved. Like I don't get mad if he does this, and he doesn't get mad if I do that. We're not trying to like outdo each other. We kind of have a common goal, and we're just both really set on achieving that together.
So in just a few short years, you've taken your business from zero to what kind of revenues are we looking at? What are your revenue goals in the next several years?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. I mean, when we started off, of course, we had nothing. We were college students, and the only money that we had at all was money that we made from jobs. So we'd go on a job and we'd spend, maybe we'd get $250, and we'd pay ourselves maybe $40 each, and then take the rest of the money and go buy a tool, because we didn't have any warehouse or anything to keep equipment. So we kind of had to go as we made. But
bootstrapped.
Yeah, exactly. So eventually we open up a bank account, and we kind of are able to put our funds in one place and then grow that and pull resources from that instead of out of our own pockets. And I mean, now we're probably making the past 2 years, I think we've definitely done like over $200,000, and I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but like I think about $200,000 the past 2 years each is about what we've done. And then of course we want to keep growing and eventually become the top service provider in our area, Birmingham, and then eventually grow out and make locations in Huntsville or Atlanta, Nashville, wherever, kind of regionally expand.
Yeah, and so you certainly can do that. I think there's a need for what you do for sure, and you have got the background, it sounds like, to somehow find that work. And I think you're right. I think you hit a niche where, you know, your expertise in digital marketing, placed in this industry can take you light years ahead of any kind of competition. And that just kind of greases your pathway to growth if you want it. In terms of managing employees, you're thinking that might be a difficult part of your growth. Are they tens or are they actual employees, W-2s?
Yeah, so they're 1099s. I think probably where we're headed in the near future is having some of our key guys, our manager types, as W-2s, and then maybe the common worker is probably still going to be a 1099 going forward. We've had several ideas throughout the years of different ways. I mean, at one point we kind of wanted to make an app and have people be able to sign up and they can work when they want, kind of like a DoorDash type of thing. Talking with a lot of people, I don't know how feasible or realistic that is, but definitely having part-time guys isn't a bad thing. You need a big worker pool to pull from. So definitely I think everything starts with the leadership. So keeping key guys and having those guys as W-2s, giving them benefits and whatnot is a good idea, but having a revolving door of common workers is going to be the reality of working in this field. So 1099, not a bad way to go.
Indeed. I think most businesses start with that structure, and it seems like they'll transition into employees. And it might be because of insurance, like workers' comp, but because you have to cover them. And I don't know if it makes your workers' comp more expensive if they don't have their own. A lot of times, true subcontractors are going to have their own that matches yours, and then you wouldn't have to cover them. But for labor 1099s, I think you do pay for that. That's really interesting. So let's move on to, you guys have any more questions on kind of current state? How?
I had just a question about your online presence. I know you have a strong background in that. Are you finding one particular platform is better than the other, like Instagram, Facebook? You have a great webpage with, you sell merch, which is pretty awesome. I'm curious to hear about the merchandise and how much you sell, but is something working better than something else, or
I think
along those lines?
Facebook is probably the most effective for what our customer base is. Our customer base is really homeowners and people that are moving families and whatnot. And so the older generation of people that do own homes and whatnot, they're going to be on Facebook more so than Instagram probably, or TikTok, because that's going to be a younger crowd. And, they don't have the need for movers or, it's just more effective, I think Facebook is. And as far as merchandise on our website, that's really just something I put up there. It doesn't actually don't make any sales from that.
Awesome. I love that.
If I want to buy,
have you tried Nextdoor?
Yeah, we do. We use Nextdoor as well. Nextdoor is also really good for finding homeowners and whatnot. It's really similar to Facebook, but Nextdoor is kind of just turned into an ad pit. Every time I go on there, it's just local people advertising their businesses. So we don't get on there as much because it's really just turned into an advertising platform.
Yeah, I see. Interesting.
And
is at your service in next year, in 5 years, in 10 years. You mentioned a little bit about wanting to expand different segments, maybe commercial. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So one thing that I've kind of noticed in the past few years is it feels like every time we grow, a lot happens at once. So you'll kind of go through stages where you'll be moving a little stagnant, and then a lot of growth happens, and then you stay at that level for a while, and then a lot of growth happens, and then it seems like it all happens at once. At least that's how it's been to this point. But really where we want to go from here, like I said, is just continue to hone our craft at what we're doing here in Birmingham, become the premier service provider in our area, grow the company to a good point here, and then move up to Huntsville. Since we already have all of our licenses and everything set up in Alabama, it would be, like a zero transition to go up to Huntsville, for example, and start a new branch. Whereas if we go to
Right.
Atlanta, Florida, wherever, we're going to have to get new business licenses and whatnot. So, that's, I think, further down the road, but I think we could open up a second branch in our own state, maybe in the next 3 to 5 years is pretty realistic to me.
Good.
Sounds good. And what about like an exit strategy? Do you have one? I guess you're way too young to even think about it. Or not.
I mean, if somebody wanted to buy the business, me and Brantley would sell it for the right price. So I guess as far as an exit
Recognizes price.
strategy is really just waiting for somebody to come make an offer to us that we can just vacation around Europe or whatever.
I'm sure it'll come at some point.
Yeah.
It sounds like you have a good plan. Your marketing is great. I think we might pick up some of your merch here shortly. So
Cam, did you say how old you were? Did we ask you that?
24.
24.
Yes, sir.
yeah, you got a long ways to go.
Yeah,
You're gonna do great.
Do you think that your youth has helped you and that you're not as weathered by a lot of other things that older people that have put in a lot of their own money? You kind of have that fearlessness of, I guess, for lack of better saying it, you don't know better. You think that's helped you get to where you are?
Yeah, I think so. One of the big things that's helped us in the past few months is there's actually a guy that's been kind of mentoring us. His name's Scott Planson, and he was the owner of a company here called Changing Spaces. And he ran his company for 25 plus years. And Changing Spaces was one of probably the biggest moving company in Birmingham. In the past year, he sold it, and he's just one of those guys. He can't sit around and not do anything. He's got to be working. So he's been kind of mentoring us and giving us pointers of what him and his company did. He's even gone on some jobs with us. But Scott's been helping us, and talking with him, like I think he got out of the business because it was hard for him to find workers. And I think being around like a group of younger guys kind of got him motivated because, he was working with, I guess, kind of what you were referring to, like the older, like more like weathered, bitter men. So
Seasoned.
I think us being young, we have more energy. And like you said, we don't know any better as far as like what we're getting to. So
God bless you.
I think you don't have that risk barrier.
Yeah, we have nothing to lose. I mean, if our company shut down tomorrow, then I don't, I'd feel fine as far as going into.
You're way ahead of most other 24-year-olds.
Yes, and
yeah, with my friends, I'm a little bit ahead of where they are at the same point, getting out of college. So,
right.
Like I said, if things shut down tomorrow, I think I would still feel good about where I stand going forward.
Yeah. Well, it's a great story that we've been listening to, and it's a success story, and I love hearing them, especially someone as young as you with that much in front of you. So your future is bright, and it'll be interesting we'll be in touch, and we'll watch you through that. Your insights have been enlightening, and it's interesting to see how you navigated kind of the challenges of starting this and through COVID and getting to where you're at now. So before we wrap things up, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to share with the listeners? Maybe some advice for some other college kids that are looking to go into business for themselves, to follow in your footsteps. Maybe what would you have to say to someone in a lecture hall right now, kind of contemplating jumping off and doing something like you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is honestly, you just kind of have to do it. There's a lot of like people, and I was the same way. You have all these like great ideas of ways to make money or things that you can do with your free time, and kind of get hung up on the idea and never actually take any action. But it's like Nike says, just do it. Just start doing something.
That's right.
And attack it every day.
Just do it.
And one thing that I always have to remind myself is, Rome wasn't built in a day. And sometimes you feel like you're doing so much work and you're not getting enough out of it, but you just kind of have to stay at it and keep going every day.
That's great. That's something you
1000%
really
true.
don't learn until you're a little later in your work life. So
If at
for
all.
you to have that knowledge now is pretty awesome.
But
Yeah, it'll serve you
begrudgingly,
well.
you're way ahead of where we were at 24.
That's right. All right. So we appreciate you, Cameron, sharing your journey and insights and the time that you've taken to talk with us today. And your story will definitely resonate and inspire some other entrepreneurs along this path, I would think.
Thank you.
All right. That was an incredibly enlightening conversation. A huge thank you to Cameron Galbreath for sharing those valuable insights and stories. It's clear how much hard work, passion, dedication you put into building At Your Service. Now, for all of you watching or listening, if you're in the Birmingham, Alabama area and need some landscaping, home improvement, junk removal, handyman services, then make sure you reach out to At Your Service. You can find their contact information right here on the screen, and they're ready to help with your next project. And you can trust that you're working with a true expert in the field. Once again, Cameron, thanks for being here with us on Swivl Sessions.
All right, thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening or watching. Swivl's field service software is everything you need to run your field service for free. Till next time, check us out at swivl.tech. That's SWIVL.tech.